money duration and the price value of a basis point. This is very simple because now after MACD we know mod D, and mod D is basically the percentage change in price of a bond given a 1% change in YTM, right? So mod D is still in percentage terms, but if you want this in dollar terms, that is where your money duration comes in, right? And what the money duration tells you is that, okay, if there is a 1% change in YTM or whatever is the change in YTM, so if there is a change in YTM, what will be the change in your price in dollar amounts, not in percentage terms. Mod D tells you in percentage terms. To know the change in dollar amount, that's where the money duration comes in, and you multiply the money duration with the change in YTM and you get the price that will change in dollar terms. And the price value of a basis point is the dollar amount that changes if there is a change in the yield to maturity of only a basis point, which is 0.01%, right? That is your basis point. So let's have a look at this. First of all, money duration. So money duration from your annual modified duration, mod D, you just multiply with the price, which means that if, let's say, your mod D is 1.78, which means if YTM goes down 1%, right, your price of the bond is expected to go up 1.78%. But to get it in dollar terms, you just multiply it with the price and you get your money duration, which is obviously in dollar terms. Now, what really confuses students is that money duration number is quite big, right? Let's say we'll take an example in the next slide, and the money duration you'll see is like coming up to 300 million or something like this. And you will be wondering, oh my God, that's a huge impact, right? But please keep in mind that money duration is not the change. The change will be calculated once you multiply money duration to the change in yield, right? So let's say if the money duration you've calculated as 300 million and the yield is changing 1%. So 0.01 multiplied with that 300 million will tell you that the price of that bond, let's say if it's worth it's $100 million bond, so it's only changing 3 million, which is 3%, right? So that is what you have to understand, that let's say there is a bond worth 100 million and it's trading at 102 of the 100 par, which means number one, you need to calculate what's the value of this bond right now. Clearly it is going to be 102 million because it's a 100 million bond trading at 102. And if the mod D is 3, the annual mod D is 3, which means to get the money duration, we will multiply the price with the mod D, and that gives you the money duration. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, that is so huge. Does that mean if the interest rate goes up 1%, this bond is going to lose 300 million? Well, it's not possible. The bond itself is worth 100 million or 102. How can it lose 300 million? The money duration doesn't tell you the amount that it will lose. It's just something that you have to multiply with the change in yield to get the amount that it will lose. So let's say if the yield is changing by 1%, then you multiply that 306 million to 1% and you get the actual change, which is 3.06 million, which if you look at it as a comparison of 100 million, or if you look at it as a comparison of 102 million, it's not that much. It's around approximately 3%, right? And of course, if your yield is only changing 10 basis points, not even a percent, right, then it's not even 3 million, it's 0.3 million, right? Because the interest rate is changing not 1%, but 0.1% or 10 basis point, 1/10 of that. Just to make sure you got the concept, I would like to request you to please solve this question and pause this video and please try to solve this. Right, so hopefully you were able to do it. First, you have to calculate what is the price of the bond. It's 1 million trading at 102.32, so that makes it 1.0232 million, right? And that multiplied with the mod D gives you the money duration. Now again, the money duration number is very big, 6 million, compared to a bond which is worth a million, right? But again, this money duration is not the actual change until it is multiplied with the change in the yield. So if the yield is changing by 10 basis points, so you multiply that money duration with the 10 basis points and you get the $6,000, which is what your bond is the price of the bond is going to change. Right, now basis point. So this is the change in price for a 1 basis point change in YTM, right? Here the YTM is going to be not 1%, but not even 10 basis point, but 1 basis point. So that's 0.0001. And you could manually calculate P minus and P plus by shocking the yield 1 basis point up and 1 basis point down. And then because you're shocking it 1 basis point up and 1 basis point down, but you want the price for 1 basis point. So what the price you would have gotten, the change that you would have gotten will be for 2 basis point. So you divide it by 2, right? This change is actually for 2 basis point because you're going 1 up and 1 down. So you take that and you divide it by 2 so that you get the price for 1. But there's a simpler way of doing it. The simpler way is you just take your money duration and multiply it with 1 basis point, and that will give you the price change for 1 basis point. So if your money duration, let's say, is 200,000, then all you have to do is multiply it with change in yield of 1 basis point, which is not 0.01, that would be 1%. It's not 0.001 because that would be 10 basis points. It's 0.001, and that gives you the price value of a basis point. Right, so here is a question for you. Please pause the video and try to solve it. Very straightforward. Money duration is 381 and then multiplied with 0.0001 is 0.0381, which is your price value of a basis point. Right, so here's a nice summary exhibit from your curriculum where we talk about Macaulay duration, which is the average time for you to get your payments back, weighted with the number of years, right? And why is this important? How do we use it? Well, it's the holding period that you need to have so that your reinvestment risk dominates your price risk. So as an investor, you need to know what is your holding period and if it is more or less than the Macaulay duration. If it is less, well, your price risk is going to be dominating, and you should be having a very clear perspective of your interest rates, because if your interest rates go up and your holding period is short, that price is going to go down and it is going to hit your return. Right, and how much is it going to go down? That depends on the modified duration. So it will tell you in percentage terms what will be the impact on the price if yield to maturity goes up 1%. And in terms of money duration, you can get it in terms of dollars, the price change in dollars. And of course, price value of basis point is also in terms of dollars, but this is for only 1 basis point change. Right, now for zero coupon bonds, if you talk about the Macaulay duration, we had in the previous learning module talked about a Macaulay duration of 7 years for a bond which had a maturity of 10 years. But why it was 7 years? Because there were payments coming in. There were payments coming in throughout the life of the bond, right? So that's why you were getting part of your cash back early. And when you were giving weight to those payments, well, you were getting a weighted average of 7, which meant in 7 years you actually have this reinvestment income overpowering the price risk. But since in a zero coupon bond there is no reinvestment income, so all your money is going to come at the end. So therefore the entire weight of the cash flow is going to have that final weight of the last year, and therefore your Macaulay duration is going to be equal to time to maturity for zero coupon bonds. For perpetual bonds, there is no maturity, it goes forever. And the way to calculate your Macaulay duration for a perpetual bond is 1 plus R divided by R. For floating rate notes, it is adjusting every period. So here what happens is that the coupon is linked to the reference rate plus a certain spread. So let's say it is reference rate plus 1%. So once the reference rate changes, if the YTM is changing, so the reference rate is changing, then automatically the coupon is adjusting. So the price adjusts, right? The price adjusts. So therefore, the risk of price is only till the end of the coupon. So let's say it's 180 days till the coupon, and you're somewhere in the middle over here, and only 57 days have passed, right? So the question is how many days remain? That's 180 over minus 57 divided by 180. So that is the only duration that you need to be worried about as far as the price risk is concerned. So your holding period should just be till the next coupon, and if you have to sell it, you can sell it on the next coupon date, right? There is, of course, something that you should be aware of, that our credit risk can change, right? So the price of a bond, which is not a government treasury bond, it's not a inflation linked bond, it's not a floating rate bond issued by the government, but if it's a floating rate note issued by a corporation. So even though the coupon is changing as the YTM is changing as far as the reference rate is concerned, but the spread is something that could be different, right? So the customers might want a higher spread if the investors might want a higher spread if your credit rating deteriorates, and that is a discussion we've had in a separate learning module. But the concept that is being discussed over here is assuming that the coupon is adjusting with the MRR, and that is in line with the YTM because the credit rating of the company is not changing. So in that case, your Macaulay duration will be just the time remaining till the next coupon divided by the total days between coupons. Right, so that is it. Now all of this mod D and money duration, all of this is different for each bond, clearly, right? Some bonds will have a higher sensitivity to changes in interest rates, some will have a lower sensitivity. And what are the factors that really impact that sensitivity? Why some have higher and some have lower? Well, because of their coupon rates, their maturity, right? Number of periods to maturity. So we're going to discuss all these properties and link them to how they impact these duration measures. So we'll discuss that in the next video.